All right, I think we should begin, otherwise we'll run out of time. Uh, I'm not sure if those who have joined us today have had the chance of being a part of the conversation earlier. As we all know, this particular specific webinar is made to discuss with mostly with the chapters, members, and people whosoever are interested in understanding the culture and its importance in making or developing the city and adding on to the image of a city. Uh, it was primarily considered while formulating these webinars. And we are here again to discuss about the project that we called INTACH Cities for Culture in order to discuss how we can probably use culture as a tool to build upon that image of a city or to probably reinstate the image of the city that is lost in the course of development and all other external factors. I'll quickly introduce you for those of you all who have joined us today to just a little bit orient you with the whole concept and idea so that, you know, because it might seem a bit overwhelming all of a sudden. The program emphasizes on the fact that I stated, and it talks on the lines of Agenda 21 for Culture. Those who have joined us today, please feel free to look it up. What it says, it again advocates the importance of culture in formulating and developing a city and marking its identity. It's 9 commitments. There are these certain commitments which the agenda proposes can be kept in mind while coming up with certain solutions with respect to a city and how they overall contribute uh, in the city. And there are certain action points that it talks about. So our program, INTACH Cities for Culture, is primarily based on these guidelines, and we've tried to imbibe and incorporate them while proposing certain ways or certain areas which can be worked on in a city, within a city. And if not, then you can probably identify if uh, a certain amount of work has been done in those areas or not, which gives you a sense of direction as to how your city is going in terms of culture, how it is retaining the identity or how it is not retaining that identity that you identified with or people, the residents of the city identified with. The particular program, since it's designed for the chapters and its members to take up with respect to their respective cities, it was designed keeping in mind a particular tenure, which is usually 3 years. And usually you begin with preparing a city profile. I think if at all someone belongs to a chapter or maybe a convener or co-convener, you might have got an email stating that it's mandatory for chapters to prepare a city profile, highlighting the different profiles of the city, just to give an overview of the city, the economic, social, cultural profile, physical profile, uh, normal basic things that we anyway do being a part of INTACH as a chapter, right? So this is what the program talks about. They are the 9 commitments that we were discussing earlier. They talk about relation of the city with respect to rights, cultural rights here in this particular scenario, heritage, diversity and creativity, culture and education, culture and environment, culture and economy, culture, equality and social inclusion, culture, urban planning and public spaces, culture, information and knowledge, and last but not the least, of course, governance of culture, which has got the most to do with implementing the ideas and usual things that one needs to um, think about while creating or reinstating that identity of city with respect to culture. So by far, we have covered almost 7 of these commitments and tried to portray the relation between culture and these specific commitments, how they are related, interconnected, how one affects the other and vice versa. It's not just unidimensional in nature. It's like, it's interdependent. Culture is interdependent with on these particular commitments. And likewise, other way around too. And we've also discussed how you can look into within your cities, how culture has been fruitful in developing your city via these mediums, or how not. If at all you see that lag happening, what all areas can you probably look into? And if at all it's happening, then what are the advantages which you might have come across, or what are the probable scope that can probably aid into formulating a pathway for other cities which might be lagging in that particular commitment. Today we'll be discussing about the very interesting and unique and very concurrent and very something that is happening very recently and has of course developed over the time, but it's talk of today, and it talks about how culture is related with relation to information knowledge, its dissemination, and how it can probably be propagated more, how it adds on to the identity of the people, how they can get benefited out of the information and knowledge that gets disseminated, what are the various mediums by it, if at all not, then what can be the probable mediums by which one can go about experiencing the culture. And of course, we talk about technology and its contribution to the plurality and in citizenship building. So that is the theme of today's topic. I hope it was again very thorough, but yet very small given to the vast extent of the discussions that we've had by far. If at all by chance you've missed out on all these discussions, please feel free to visit our Facebook page, and we usually do, the session goes on live and we have these videos saved. You can probably go back and look into the videos, and most welcome to write to us in case if you have any questions regarding it. So coming on to the topic of today, that is culture, information and knowledge. What does the commitment portray, or paves its path along, on what guidelines? The commitment that we've had inspiration from the Agenda 21, and what we have understood in the journey is that it is the right of all individuals. If at all, I don't know, you've had the chance to attend our sessions earlier, but we talked about cultural rights specifically. It was the first and foremost commitment and the first and foremost topic of our discussion, where we talked about the importance and vitality of rights in general and cultural rights so more, to say. And we as citizens, we are completely unaware of our rights, cultural rights, let alone, right? And cultural rights form an important and integral part of the 6 basic human rights that we have. Again, I'll emphasize, if you don't know about it, please go ahead and do get an information about it. Cultural rights are very important to us, and that kind of builds up our identity as citizens, gives us the right to contribute to the city, to the places, to the context that we have grown up in, that we are probably passing on down to our generations. The cities, which are basically nothing but physical manifestations of the culture that we have been surrounded with, grown up with, passing it down. So cultural rights form an important part in it, and they are the tool that help you be more active as a citizen, and be more prompt, and be more involved in the whole process. So it's an important right. With respect to your freedom of speech, access to heritage, values and identities, and active participation in cultural life, all these things are nothing but an extension to your the fact of you having that cultural right. So it talks about that. It also talks about that as citizens, the governments or people in charge should have that ability to provide us with an increased access to information made by digital technology. And of course, considering the due probabilities of privacy also in mind. So we as citizens, of course, should have the right to access any information for that matter that is concerned with us. And when it comes to culture, culture is something created by us for us. So if not so little, but more when it comes to culture, right? So we should have almost all the knowledge with respect to the works that are being done in the field of culture with respect to your city, and that information should be readily available. And if it is available, it should be accessible to all people of all gender, people of all age groups, and people of all different sections of society. So that is what it talks about. The ease with which it is also available is also a matter of concern. I'm pretty sure we we are still in that stage of making it accessible in general. Easiness की तो बात अभी है ही नहीं. But yeah, that is what it talks about. It also talks about the importance of organizations that work with information and knowledge. If at all you have that sort of capability and capacity, you should probably drive more through it, and you more through it. Plus, you should be able to propagate more about culture and the respective cities that they belong in. You see all such organizations or all such institutes working around you in the form of libraries, archives, museums, the media. There's so many media platforms thanks to all the technological advancements that we've had by far. And they, of course, provide information, but a lot has to be done in ways how the information has been provided, again, with the easiness of it, with the applicability part of it. How easily can you understand it, of course, how easily can you access it, and how easily can you probably provide your inputs also simultaneously being an informed citizen. And also with respect to the content that probably is showcased in the media, it should involve as many communities, as many microcultures that a city comprises of, or a particular area comprises of. There should be equal division. So we talk about equality. We've had a major discussion on, yes, Satur Chandraji. I'll just probably take questions once I am done with this. Sorry for this, but yeah. To empower individuals and communities, and to give that proper, undivided, unbiased attention, leading to an overall development, overall balanced development of a society, of the culture, of us in totality. So this is what in general the commitment talks about. There are certain points, action points that Akriti we have here with us. Akriti used to work with INTACH Bhopal chapter, which was the pilot city for the project, and she was on ground in charge person to materialize the whole conceptual ideas. And she'll be taking up the action points simultaneously one by one and explain the methodological part of it. How did she go about making it happen on ground, and what all things did she see while doing it? So the general action points, there are certain action points that the program asks you to see with respect to your city, and see if they are getting fulfilled within your area or not. So this is just a summarization of it. You can probably see if there is ample or enough dissemination of cultural knowledge, as well as access to free and plural information, to guarantee that information is harnessed, promote citizens' right to participate in cultural life. That is what we were talking about earlier. The local media should reflect the plurality of opinions, give equal space and profile to the voices of women, men, different other genders, and represent local and international cultural diversity. Are there any schemes where the universities, government, and civil societies are joining hands together to monitor, research, and analyze cultural developments within that city, within the premises, and their interaction with other areas of sustainable development? As we all know, this particular program is nothing but an extension a contextualized extension to the implementation of SDGs everywhere, something to take back that we've lost in the due course, and just to see if all these commitments that are there in place, they are nothing but um, conglomeration of these different 17 sustainable development goals that the UN had proposed, I think, into 2015. And what we did was we just, you don't have to work in different spaces and different box. And once it comes to the realization of things, it's very essential to get everything is interconnected, right? So even with respect to the SDGs, they all are interconnected. One cannot function without the support of other, and that's how it goes with respect to this commitment too. It will not happen. It of course is interconnected with all these different commitments, and it will not happen in seclusion in its own shell. So you have to see if any work is being done with respect to culture in terms of sustainable development, and see that universities, governments, or any other major institutes in your institutions as in entities, not really, entities who are working in that particular sector. Have they joined up, or are they doing work exclusively in their own area, or in their own capacities? The policies and programs introduced by local agencies, local government agencies, shall focus on creation, production, and digital distribution. With the given advancement in technology, and of course, it's boon or bane, it's something that we can probably discuss, and that is an ever-ending topic. But again, of course, we'll focus on the bright side, where it has become very much easy for people to access data, access information, and of course, getting educated by different means, by different understand different sections, understand different areas. We just have to understand and see if any such work with respect to digitization and provision of that imparting of knowledge is being done by local agencies, or are they seeking any help or aid via technology. Is that happening in your city? That is centered on citizens, and which promote cultural democracy. This is something that will always be an underlying thing, an underlying principle. The plurality part of it with respect to different sections, different genders, and all sorts of things, right? Also, you have to see if cultural institutions that receive public support are participating in debates on information and knowledge, and provide consistent support for valuing culture as a common good. There may be, so all these, these points are just pathways. They can be innumerable other ways which you can probably reflect on and see how your city is performing. These are just some points that you can look into and see how your city is performing with respect to this particular commitment. To get more into the detailed part of it, I'll request now Akriti to share how did she make it happen on ground. I'll quickly make her.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Akriti. Just a second.
I'll just share my screen. Can I?
Yeah, done.
I think it would be visible, right?
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone. We have been talking about all the commitments and how culture relates to different aspects uh, when it comes to understanding the city and the culture within the city. So now this particular commitment, when we go through the action points in detail, it somehow starts summing up a lot of other commitments. So until unless, so if we understand what this exactly commitment is talking about, or what the intention of this commitment is to actually explore when it comes to culture of the city, is to say that how important is information dissemination, creation, information creation, information dissemination is important, and how can we do it, and what are the various institutional frameworks, policy frameworks within the city that in a way um, that strengthen this whole narrative of information knowledge and culture. So let's go by action point to see that how this commitment specifically it actually forms the crux of most of the other commitments. So okay, so starting from action point number 1, implementing legislation which guarantees freedom of expression. So obviously, all of you would know that freedom of expression is one of the fundamental rights, and it is it's a national thing. Our constitution gives it to us, and there is nothing specific that talks about for any particular city or state. It's a freedom which is a freedom of speech, which is a freedom of expression enjoyed by every citizen of our country, given to us through our constitution. So on the same line, we explored this particular action point also. So for this particular action point, the reason that we have it at a nationalized level, we have given it score 10. For the ones who do not understand this, why are we scoring it? So the whole point of this understanding all the commitments is to actually come up with a radar graph and to say that for each and every action, for each and every commitment, how much has the city scored, so that we know where any city's strengths and weaknesses lie. So where you have strengths, you can use those strengths, and where there are weaknesses, how can you overcome those weaknesses? So each and every commitment has 10 action points, and each and every action point has been marked from the score of 10. So this particular action point, for the reason that our constitution gives us this freedom of expression, we have written it. Now, getting into the details of what that freedom of expression really means, or where the lacunas are when we talk about this particular, that is a very detailed or a very debatable topic. But the whole point of this being present as one of the rights is something that is important for us to explore, and we can get into the nuances later when that's a very debatable thing to get into, so I don't want to get into it right now. The next one is, so the entire explanation is for the right to speech and expression that article number 19 gives us of the constitution, and the right to speech and expression, it is provided at article number 19 1A of the constitution, and it says that every individual has the right to express one's views and opinions without any limitation, restriction, and censorship. The essence of freedom of expression and speech is that words can be spoken in an open forum without any hindrance, and this right is an essence of the free society. So you can express your opinions. Your opinions may be expressed by word of mouth, in writing, in printing, through pictures, any other mode. And this is what our constitution gives us. And we have the privilege to have this right of expression and speech. Now, the next one is establishing public and civil society mechanisms to monitor these freedoms. So now again, this is an action point where it is very difficult to actually say that at a city level, is there anything done or not? Because these are certain aspects which are done at a state level or a center level. So again, for this particular action point, and in this particular commitment, in most of the action points, we have gone with country or at a center level rather than a state or a city level. Am I audible? I mean, I'm getting a message that my internet connection is unstable. So is my voice breaking or is it fine?
It was cracking in between, yeah.
It's cracking in between. Now, is it, just let me know if it happens again, just let me know. So I'll try to fix my internet. So yeah, so this particular commitment, we have relied for most of the information from whatever is there at a national level rather than state or a city level. So again, establishing public and civil society mechanisms to monitor these freedoms. We do not have anything in particular for any city or any state. It's just the legal framework that we have for the country, which is something that if the courts, high court or the Supreme Court, they are supposed to safeguard whatever is written in the Constitution of India. Any breaching of any aspect from the Constitution of India it becomes a responsibility of the court to safeguard those things. So we have gone with the same justification for this action point, that it's the apex court or high court, and they see to it that in case of any violation of the Constitution of India with respect to this particular freedom of speech and expression, actions are taken. Also, you would see in India, we have a lot of cases where people come together. You have national and regional parties, they're coming together. So through the way of debates, discussions, strikes, bunds, public demonstrations, they are the ways that and that democracy actually gives us. So these are certain ways, going into the detail of it, right or wrong. We are not sitting here to judge if it's right or wrong. If we are just sitting here to say that this is what happens, and this is how we are doing it, this is how people have been doing it. How much of it, I mean, it's a very subjective thing to say. Everybody would have a different opinion about it. So let's go by the legal framework. So we have courts safeguarding these freedom of expression and speech, and various driving forces are there when it comes to any sort of breaching of these systems or freedoms. So there are various forces that are acting, but there is no holistic framework at a city level per se. That is something I want to highlight. If in case anyone, if you're doing this exercise and you come across something, that would be something really amazing to look into. How is there any city that has actually formed some mechanism? Is there some specific institutional organization working towards safeguarding these freedom of expression and speech at their city level or at their state level? That would be something interesting to know and explore further. Then the third action point is introduction of policies that guarantee access to free and plural information, as well as measures to guarantee that information is harnessed to promote citizens' right to participate in cultural life. So again, we don't have a policy per se, but then we took an example of right to information as an act that we have in our country, which guarantees, which says that you have access to information, which is a matter of right to every citizen, and this right is enforceable. So you have this privilege of you can just put an RTI and you have information can be given to you, but it's not something which you can say that it's specifically to access information or free information to promote citizens right to participate cultural life. It's a mechanism in place for a lot of other things as well. For almost everything, we just put RTI, and under this act you have access to information. Then the next one is ensuring that the local media reflects the plurality of opinions and represents local and international cultural activity. So with this for this particular action point, what we could find or we could again use was that you have the plurality of opinion in the local media. So local media, when we are talking about local media, it is about TV channels or about radio stations. And we try to contact actually for this, because for each and every action point, wherever applicable, we try to contact. So we try to contact local media channels, local newspaper houses, but sadly we couldn't get any response, because to ask them if you do it, the answer is obviously yes. Nobody's going to say no, we don't do it, no, we don't reflect the plurality of opinion. So obviously we got the answer yes only, that yeah, we do it, and most of them didn't respond. So we couldn't get a very clear, authentic picture as to how this is happening. But certainly, they try to cover most of the cultural activities, and um, the newspapers and the radio stations, especially, they try and cover most of the cultural activities that are happening in the city without any bias, because that is a form of simple reporting that they're doing, and they do it to whatever extent possible. The reach of it, um, so again, now that is a very different spectrum that we enter, that how do you increase the reach of it. So if there is something that is so this kind of information, if your local media is trying to capture the cultural life of the city and trying to showcase it, what is the reach of it, how many people are actually accessing it, not accessing it is a different thing. Maybe some surveys can help us further identify, or help identify the whole thing, identify how it is being done. But the basic picture is this only, that yeah, you have these houses, you have these radio stations, you have media houses which are trying to do as much as they can to promote cultural life, especially the famous events like I'm forgetting the name of the event. So Priti, can you recall that event? I'm forgetting it. Uh, the one that happens in January, Lokala something, it's the event. So yeah, they try to
Lokram.
capture. Yeah, Lokram.
Yeah.
I just forgot the name. So they try to capture at least the famous ones, definitely. Then the next one is establishing systems that join up universities, governments, and civil society to monitor, research, and analyze cultural development. Uh, so in this, we have tried to at least say that these all university, government, civil society organizations are there. Even the organization that did this entire thing, where I was, uh, this whole project was housed. It was the Good Governance and Policy Analysis Institute in Bhopal. Even organizations like these, they are in a way trying to um, promote these things. They're trying to establish, at least make an effort towards working on cultural developments. But certainly there is no holistic system in place that is trying to join up these things. Again, if we come across this in any particular city, it would be interesting thing to look into further. But as of now, institutions like AIGGPA or Indira Gandhi National Museum and TRI, these are some organizations which are there, and they are trying to do it, but there's no policy framework that it is. Am I audible?
Yeah, Prithia, it's fine.
I don't know, it's just showing me internet connection. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, such organizations are there, but they do not fall under certain or specific policy framework that ensures that, there has to be some mechanism to control or to join up all these separate entities and work research towards research and analyzing cultural developments within the city. They are doing it on their own, as part of their personal interest, um, which is in a way a good thing, but there needs to be some holistic mechanism to control these things, or to at least uh, promote these things, so that there is something cohesive that comes out of it. Then the next action point is analysis of the obstacles to accessing and using information and communication technologies for cultural purposes. So, um, I mean, because now again, it's a different kind of society we are living in, where IT, where social media, all of these things have gained a lot of precedence, and information access has become free. But to understand, or to actually um, formulate something that says that it's uh, to analyze it, that if it's being used for cultural purposes or not, is something which is which is a very deeper research to be done. So yeah, what we could write for this, or what we could understand out of it, that in case of any sort of problem in accessing it, so an example for it is, while even I was trying to collect information from a lot of different stakeholder organizations, and it was for a cultural purpose. So this report that we were doing, it was for a cultural purpose, that we were trying to access information from different agencies. We had because Mr. Upadhyay, who was the main person who was working, he's the convener of INTACH chapter. So he had that kind of right connections, but even in places where information was becoming difficult for us to get into, um, we could have used RTI, and we actually thought of even doing it for a few places, but because we had our own time limitations, so it would have taken a long time. So we didn't go for it. But these are the kinds of obstacles that even all of you, when you be working for this particular part of this entire program, which is the radar report, accessing information from various organizations and authenticating it and convincing them to say that this would be used for some good use, this would be used for some cultural purposes, is difficult, because as of now the overall understanding of it is somehow limited. So even it took me a lot of time, it used to take me a lot of time to try to explain it to them what this report is. So the question would be then, why are you doing it? What would be the outcome of it? How will it benefit us? So these are very general questions, and they will come across your way. So you have to be prepared for it. But even in for something which now we can say that now we have done it and all, it took us a long time to actually access this kind of information and use it for a purpose like this report itself. So as of now, RTI is the only solution. There is no other solution that can actually uh, that is actually in place to say that information can be taken easily or information can be accessed easily. There would be obstacles, and as of now, there's no framework to safeguard this. Then the next one is analysis of the relationship between grassroots cultural processes and social innovation. Um, the whole concept of this, that the grassroots cultural processes and social innovations, something which we do, but there is no analysis. Rather, I would say there is no body, no government body to actually look into this in from this lens. So there are a lot of things that you would see that are happening, but to say them that this is being done is actually, it becomes very specific, seeing it through a particular lens and analyzing it. So culture of department certainly involves in a lot of cultural activities, but again, to say that there is some relationship being formed between these grassroots cultural activities and a large scale social innovation is something yet to be explored, or I don't think that that is even being done, or there's even an understanding of ideas or concepts like this. So that's why I'm saying that all these ideas and concepts, until unless we have a policy framework that addresses such a nuanced kind of action points, such a nuanced kind of approach where you have so many aspects that if you just go about it, um, you'll just, I mean, if you just brainstorm, you might not even come to this extensive detailed level of analysis or observing or analyzing different aspects. But since we have the help of these action points, we can actually formulate a policy which would be a holistic policy addressing a lot of things. Now, development of policies and programs focused on creation, production, and digital distribution that are centered on citizens and promote cultural democracy. Again, the same thing. We do not have a policy or per se for actually doing this, but yes, there are certainly a lot of programs that are focused on creation, production, and digital distribution to promote cultural democracy. Not in the form of a policy, can be taken up, even social media in a lot of ways, because now that is a very in thing. So most of the government departments or non-government departments, they they take the help of social media and various other platforms to uh, actually promote and like create, promote, produce whatever they want to do through this platform. It needs to be interlinked in a way that there is some framework that is guiding, kind of a framework to say that, you know, these are the kinds of programs that are taking place and that are done for this kind of activities. We have some understanding of the user group. We have some understanding of to what masses we are catering to, what are we trying to convey. This culture again is a very broad thing, and what are we trying to convey, what are we trying to gain out of it. Something needs to be, there has to be some sort of a framework guiding all this. So it's being done, but not in a very holistic way. Everybody has their own ways of doing it, and they use social media very easily for it. Now, sorry. Introduction of training or awareness raising activities for cultural professionals on the cultural, social, and economic implications of existing and emerging forms of cultural access and reproduction. So you might see that we have we have mentioned drama schools at Bhopal, but this is all we could come up with for the reason that it's not something which is done very actively, very passively. You will see that people are involved in this. So awareness raising activities or training programs that are being done, they take place. Not specifically catering to cultural professionals, but in general, uh, they try to reach out to masses, um, and their agendas or their whole manifesto is different. It might cater to some social issues, some causes, but again, cultural access and reproduction. So it's a very complex kind of an action point, and I don't think that there is any platform or there is any way in which we have tried to even address this. So it's long way down the line that we'll be actually coming up to this, that we will be going about like training or awareness raising activities for specifically cultural professionals on the implications of existing forms of cultural access and reproduction. So it's I mean, again, if you come across something like this, it would be really interesting and good to know. So and we can discuss it. But for Bhopal, no, definitely we didn't find anything which is actively being done for this particular action point. Development of policies and programs which allow people active in the cultural sector to participate in international cooperation networks. So there is no policy framework for it, but certainly there are, I mean, Department of Culture or MOM is Museum of Man, and Akashvani Doordarshan, they provide platform to citizens. Um, so there is a regular exchange of cultural exchanges there, and people participate. They enhance or they provide a platform, but again, no policy directly addressing the same. So I think this particular commitment, for this particular commitment, I feel there is a lot that needs to be done. We have resources, we have tools. How do we use them to actually promote culture, to actually share and disseminate maximum to promote cultural life for citizens, needs to be further explored. So I think I'm done with this, um, with all the 10 action points. And if anybody has any questions, free to ask.
I think we had a question from the person is not here now. So yeah, any questions regarding the whole commitment? the idea, see, with respect to organization working primarily in the sector of culture and its propagation, we understand the importance of it. And no matter however much work you do or however much work you see happening, until and unless it's being propagated or people are made aware about it, it's down the line, its impact won't happen. So as important as the, the conservation of culture or the in whatever efforts we take in making all these things happen, until unless it gets conveyed to people who might be like-minded or who would want to do certain thing about it, until unless it's propagated, it won't have as much impact. So it becomes really important to make people aware about the work that you're doing, or if anyone wants to do anything, what should be the criteria or the guidelines that they can probably look up to. And in that aspect, the dissemination plays an important and vital role. And that is what the commitment identifies with and promotes simultaneously. Okay, RTI. Akriti, how long did it take for you to get that revert after RTI? How much time did it take? We have a question from Yasmin. Hi, Yasmin. Hello, good to see you.
Yeah, I didn't get the question. What? Sorry.
Yasmin is asking, wanted to know how long does it take for a revert after RTI? You went for an RTI, right?
We
So
didn't
how
go for
long
an
did it
RTI.
take?
We planned to go for an RTI. That's what I
Okay.
said, that we had access to information because of the kind of networking, the contacts we had. But this might be a scenario, this might be a possibility. And this is the only mechanism in place that we have as of now to actually access information, be it any kind of information. But RTI is the only way to access that information.
So we didn't really go for it
We did, yeah,
to
we
see
didn't
that
go
happen.
for it. Yeah,
And if
no.
anyone here has gone
And
for
e-
RTI thing, how long did it take? Would be good to know. No? Okay.
we had time limitation. If we would have gone for it, I think even till late we would have not completed the report.
Yeah. That is why I was asking how long does it actually take to happen. So yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We have Nirmal Yadav. I think I'm seeing you, ma'am, for the first time. Agarwal ji and Hemant Kumar. Hello, hi. आप म्यूट पे हैं. You are on mute.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hi.
We are just new INTACH members from CCA school. Sector
Oh,
4
amazing. Amazing. Good to see you. Have you had the chance to join us
member.
before?
So
Okay, all
we've
right.
been participating on and off,
Okay,
but lately we became members of the INTACH group.
okay.
So, and it's
Good to see you here. Thank you for
so much.
joining.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I think we are done with the session then. If at all we have any other questions, please go ahead. This is the time. Good to see you, Rusbe, again. Hope you've been doing something. And I am still waiting for your city profile to come. All right. I think we'll close the session then. And we'll have the last session for the whole series, that is on governance of culture, which as I said earlier, last but not the least, and most important and very important to get all these things done on ground and to be able to get hold of the situation. We'll be talking about it, and that will probably mark the end of the webinar series that we've been doing so far. So I hope to see you all, maybe for the last, not really the last time, I hope to see you all again and again and take up the work that we've been intending to project through all this effort. And yeah, we'll see you again. Thank you so much for joining today. Have a good day. And yeah, you can write to us if you have any other questions. So yeah, thank you. Bye. Have a good day. Yeah. Bye.